Some people have 2024 goals of getting rid of weight, bad relationships, negative habits, and more. But collectively, our 2024 goal as South African citizens should be to get rid of the ANC government. The ANC are like an infection that was ignored for too long, and here we are with a wound that is getting deeper, infested, and still causing serious pain. The ANC's looting of Eskom, Transnet, SAA, and many other SOEs would not have been possible without people loyal to the ANC being at high positions in government departments and SOEs. This tiny little detail makes the ANC even more dangerous. Before we continue, please like, share, comment, and don't forget to subscribe. I'm Cadre, welcoming you to Citizen Concerned. Remember to beware of the Comrades.
I once asked a few leaders, in the midst of load shedding, do we still remember that Eskom was once ranked number 1 in the world, state-owned company? 2001, 2, and 3, I think.
Yeah.
And I then went on to say, who was the chairperson then? Dr. Rolkoza. Who was the CEO? Thulani Gcabashe. Are they dead or alive? They are alive. Have they been conducted? No.
In order for the management of our state-owned entities like Eskom, Transnet, SAA, and many others to function well, they need to be run by competent people who do not have any close relationship or loyalty to the ANC, DA, EFF, and many other parties. The CEOs and managers of these entities need to be hired based on one characteristic: their competence for the job. Best person for the job is a criteria that should be used to hire people when it comes to state-owned entities. We should not care what race, age, or gender the person is. The ANC is a problem because it has a habit of hiring people based on political affiliations, not on competence, which reminds us that state capture would not be possible if it wasn't for cadre deployment. The ANC can keep their leaders based on who can sing struggle songs. They can keep their leaders based on color, but not us, not our parastatals.
Cadre policy is about development of individual cadre of the ANC.
Oh, okay. So you say cadre policy is not necessarily deployment policy.
It's not deployment policy.
Yes.
It's preparation of cadres
Yes.
to be ready. If you do well and comply with the prescriptions of the cadre policy, you will be ready for deployment because you will have acquired the skill.
Okay. I hope that has clarified, Mr.
Well, cadre policy, the conference notes the importance for the process of transformation and the mass character of the ANC of having, and these are the words I focus on, of having an army of conscious, committed, and properly deployed cadres. That is fundamental policy. That was then fundamental policy of the ANC. And the question I want to ask is, does that remain fundamental policy of the ANC?
Yes, it remains fundamental.
And if we look at the fourth bullet point, this is under conference notes, the critical role of political leadership in the transition period and the need to deploy cadres to various organs of the state, including the public service and to other centers of power in society. That remains the position of the African National Congress to this day. Am I right?
Yes, it remains.
So, it wouldn't be correct to say that cadre policy is purely about training and enhancing the skills and the political education of cadres, because although that's correct, there's a second part to it, and the second part to it is the policy of deploying those cadres, correct?
The cadre policy prepares people
For deployment.
Yes. It's like, even if you call it or you don't call it deployment, a policy, You have kids, you send them to school, you are preparing them for bigger responsibilities in society. The ANC take that responsibility on its cadres. That's why it is not an exception in the ANC to send an old person sent back to school. And you go and study and come back, because there is an ongoing process of preparing people to take bigger responsibility. And therefore, deployment, yes.
Without cleaning the government departments by vetting the leaders in all government departments, checking for qualifications, experience, as well as the standard of their work, the crisis we find ourselves in will be around for a long time. I mean, we have seen the effects of this cadre deployments in government departments. Even if you change the mayor, things don't simply get better, because under that mayor are ANC cadres who know very well that for them to earn that 500,000 or 1 million per year, it's all thanks to their masters in the ANC and not because they are competent. Hence, they remain loyal to the ANC regardless of who is the mayor, MEC or premier over them.
The other one, I do think that the appointment of HODs, heads of departments, DGs, HODs, whatnot, had become so much of a political theater in a space of a factionalized environment, in a space of insecurity, that loyalty became the number one requirement rather than competence. And once that happens, you bring a person who is not competent. First, they'll rely on consultants because they do not know what they're dealing with. And two, they'll try to do anything to please the person that they believe brought them in here.
Yeah.
So you already have a situation of vulnerability that creates corruption.
Cadres will ensure that their preferred contractors get all the nice tenders, when all the other contractors do not get paid due to not bribing and due to not having friends inside. The cadres make sure that their connections get paid immediately. Cadres are the kinds of people that will pay some contractors complete amounts of money before the job is completed, instead of gradual payments for different stages of the projects. These cadres are the kinds of people who award tenders to people that don't even qualify. Every time you hear of the fact that Edwin Sodi or Carol Bauer won a tender they did not qualify for, I bet that the process was laden with cadres.
And it's breaking news that leads your bulletin. The ANC says it is studying the Constitutional Court ruling, which has now given the party just 5 days to hand over all the minutes of its Cadre Deployment Committee meetings to the Democratic Alliance. The party responded in a tweet saying it will adhere to the ruling. The ANC had approached the court, hoping to appeal the rulings of both the High Court in Johannesburg and the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein. Those courts had previously found in favor of the DA. The opposition party had argued that decisions and deployments of this committee laid the foundation for state capture. It also argued that South Africans have a right to know how the deployment committee affected appointments in government.
I can tell you which people are not cadre deployments. Babita Deokaran definitely was not a beneficiary of cadre deployments. Cynthia Stimple was not a beneficiary of cadre deployments, and neither was Mosilo Mutepu. These are people who were qualified and experienced for their jobs. People that studied and worked hard, earning their posts on merit alone. You want an example of cadre deployments? When you see a headline like this one, that's a sign. You wonder why everything is falling apart? This is one of the reasons. Because a lot of senior government officials are unqualified for their positions. They are incompetent but have one thing working for them. They are connected. Imagine 1,800 senior top management unqualified. Yeah, ne? What do you expect? You expect Home Affairs to be doing well? You expect Transnet to be doing well? How can you expect the municipalities to be doing well under such leadership? It's impossible. I don't know about you, but history and experience have convinced me that comrades have no clue how to successfully run an organization. They have no idea, no clue what good governance is.
Of course, over time, when these practices take place, it becomes routine to people to think that it is okay. When some leaders are caught and nothing happens to them, those below start thinking, because you have to set the tone, in many ways. So I do think that corruption, for it to be tackled, it should be a multifaceted approach, promotion of constitutional values and principles and ethics, tightening the systems so that both incentives and punishment are equally firm and strong.
Sure.
Integrate your systems so that a person who has done wrong elsewhere is known everywhere else, so that you can be able, even your biometric, data, so that we know if Fikeni has done something wrong here, wherever he goes, this record will keep coming up.
We're talking about people like Dudu Myeni. No experience, and yet Jacob Zuma put her on the board of SAA, resulting in the poor performance of SAA. What were the consequences of Dudu Myeni and Jacob Zuma? What message does that send to other public servants? We will never regain what we lost with Dudu Myeni in that position. As incompetent and inexperienced as she was for the role, she was made the most powerful person at SAA. Hlaudi Motsoeneng is another one. Empty leadership who managed to make it into the COO position in the SABC with no matric. He hired, promised, and raised the salaries of people in a questionable manner. SABC is in trouble to this day, and he had a big part in that. Criticism of Zuma was not allowed when he took over as COO. How can he allow honest and valid criticism of Comrade Zuma when his own hire was based on loyalty and connection to the ANC?
The ANC has officially handed over the Cadre deployment documents to the Democratic Alliance. The DA has been in a 3-year-long battle with the ANC over the records that date back to January 2013. The party released a statement after the 5 p.m. deadline was met, saying that they will now study the Cadre deployment records to see if the ANC has complied with the court order.
Hopefully, with the documents that have been released, the entire process will be exposed, allowing for us to know the cadres that have been deployed into public service. I know that for years we have been somewhat aware that the ANC is hiring people with loyalty and allegiance to them as a party, but it will be good to understand the degree to which this has been done, and not only that, but also address it fully. If the governing party continuously does this, it will result in all organs of the state being in the hands of political parties through cadre deployment. And if that happens, democracy dies. Judges, law enforcement, and the military will all belong to the political parties, not the state of South Africa. They will serve the parties and not the public. Let's listen to our final clip from Professor Somadoda Fikeni, who shares some sensible ideas of how he believes this nonsense can come to an end.
What should be the reform program around which we rebuild the state capacity?
Yeah.
This professionalization, which is mainly emphasizing on building a meritocratic system, came about having done comparative analysis of different countries, of different contexts, to say this is what works.
Right.
It is looking at the whole ecosystem of how do we train human resources that will end up in the public service. How do we recruit with all the filters, including the integrity testing? How do we recruit and have a panel of experts rather than just having ministers around and one DG they've asked, so that those experts from the fields of those departments, brought from professional organizations or well known in society, sit there and they make their own input. They do the interviews as well, and so forth. the in-service training of those who are already inside.
Yeah.
Performance assessment in a rigorous manner and consequence management. Delineation of politics from administration, mindful of the fact that you'll always have political appointees. In any democracy, you'll have those, but they do not have such an overbearing impact on the technocrats and the professionals who are appointed.
And they don't need to go all the way down
Yes.
the department.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can't be getting even your cleaner being a political deployee. Or
Thank you to those that have been fighting this battle while most of us enjoyed braais and beers. Thank you to the political parties and groups that have fought against this evil. Thank you to the whistleblowers, those with us and those who were assassinated. Like getting rid of weight, bad relationships and habits, the ANC may be difficult to eradicate from our society, but it's necessary to get rid of them now more than ever. So in these 2024 elections, let's do it. Please subscribe, like the video and share it. Join the channel membership if you think that what we do here is of any value. I'm Katlego Moagi, and this is Citizen Concerned. Until next time, beware of the comrades.